I'm gonna get straight to the point because I had not planned on doing any more audio spaces for some time. But after having the misfortune of listening to Disruptor Twitter space and listening to this lady by the name of Girl Sanders, it's quite apparent folks just still haven't gotten it through their thick head that every time that you make the choice to dishonor and disrespect Negro, whatever's coming out your mouth, whatever you're doing is going to fall on deaf ears. It's apparent that folks are starting to shape another narrative that they want to do a protest on the 15th of April. And Mr. Disruptor kept saying in his state that there's something called Negro Freedom. And then other folks have come up with a new term called Black American Negro. But y'all can keep on coming up, reaching up in the air and pulling down these new terms and think they mean something. They may have a feel-good feeling for your self-interest and your self-serving agenda, but it doesn't carry any weight in America. I'm still scratching my head to figure out why folks just insist on keep on saying it for save a life. But like I said at the beginning, I don't want to make this recording that long. I want to really thank Saber, S-A-B-A. That brother was the only one in that space that had a backbone and courage who brought up the word boycott. And Mr. Disruptor did a good job of glossing right over it. And I'm quite aware of the fact that he did a boycott called #24. But there's a difference between different types of boycott. Folks gonna keep right on convincing themselves that boycott cannot work. And that is gonna be the downfall. I want them to look at themselves in the mirror, and I want them to look their kids in the face and their grandkids and explain to them why they didn't want to make a commitment and sacrifice to simply boycott these social media platforms. I know why they didn't want to support effort I tried to make, because they couldn't stand my guts. But that's okay. It wasn't about me. It was about demanding human rights. It was about demanding respect. It was about demanding honoring and respecting the Negro sacrifice for 246 years. It was about Special Field Order 15. It was about IRS reparations to cash payments. It wasn't about me, whether you like me or we know each other or not. But that's the excuses. That folks are going to come up with a million and one excuses as to why they simply cannot boycott these social media platforms. They rather make the plan to get on an airplane, get on a bus, get on a train, get in a car, and drive to Washington, D.C. and pay money out of their pockets to do a protest in front of the Capitol building. They rather paint that narrative and feed that to folks and give them false hope and pipe dreams instead of just doing a simple commitment of a boycott. That's not going to help. Growing up in Washington, D.C. is not going to help any person in the ghetto. It's not going to help any person in the projects. It's not going to help any person in the hood. And I can clearly state that since I grew up in the projects. It's not going to help them, not one iota bit. They're not going to give it a second thought. But you're going to do it anyway because you need it for your own conscience. You need it for your own self-serving interest and conscious agenda. I don't know. You can come up with all the reasons that you want to under the sun, but I don't know how intelligent, logical thinking person can compare a simple boycott of social media can make more sense than getting on an airplane and gathering people for a protest in Washington, D.C. It will certainly make the enemy quite happy because Jim Crow police is going to make a lot of overtime paid on that day. However many days it lasts, they will be collecting a fat check. There was a time when protests and marching served its purpose. That time is come and gone. But folks would rather do that than simply not click on a social media app. How in God's name does that make sense? How in God's name do you explain that to yourself, your kids, and your grandkids? That it makes more sense for you to push the narrative to organize for a protest in Washington, D.C., compared to simply boycotting social media until the enemy comes to the table. How do you convince yourself that that makes more sense? I don't know. But someday, you're going to have to come to terms with it. That you made a choice, a conscious choice. Whether you like me or not, organize a boycott yourself, but do it where it targets the social media platform. That is the simplest one that can be the less painful that folks would have to sacrifice. It's asking a whole lot to ask people to stay home from their jobs when prices are skyrocketing due to inflation. While folks are getting put out of their homes and apartments, that you would fit your mouth to ask anyone to stay home from their job when you simply could ask them to not to click on a social media app for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, or 30 days, or 60 days, or 90 days. You would rather ask them to stay away from their job rather than ask them not to click on an app. How do you make sense of that one? I don't know. But each of you who know who you are, you're going to have to make sense of that because it's going to be on your conscience all the days forward. Because I made every effort to launch a boycott in February 2022 on WordPress 2023, February 2023. I set up a Negro on Monetize.com. People didn't want to join that one. They said they just couldn't figure it out how to set it up, sign up for their account. So I said, okay, let me try something else. Let me build a website. So I built a website and they still don't join. Okay. Next thing I came up with, I said, okay, let me just set up a community on my Twitter profile. What excuse are they going to have then? You know how many persons? What's that? 10 persons that I can count on my 2 hands. Yes, I'm sure many of you out there who can't stand my guts are going to have all this and that to say. But that's all well and good. That's your God-given right to come up with all the reasons under the sun as to why you didn't join the community boycott on my profile. But I took time out of my life today to come on Twitter and make this space because I had planned not to come back on Twitter for a while. But it just bothers my conscience to know that folks are still out there preaching to people about protesting and marching and doing pull-ups when they know good and darn well America don't feel any pressure or threatened by any protests, marching, praying, voting. None of it have any meaning to America. It helps America with its agenda, they quite happy with you choosing those options instead of boycotting. Because until America feels some pain, these corporations start losing money, they're not going to pay any attention to anything you do. You can stand on your head until you're blue in the face, but the only way America is going to pay attention that they care about money, power, and control. If you are not posing any harm in those three areas, then you're just flapping in the wind. Just flapping in the wind and wasting time. Just wasting time. It was just really shocking as I listened to Disruptor Space. I heard Miss Sister Shonda, taxation, that that person by the name of Gerald Sanders. Of course, I heard Disruptor. I heard who else did I hear? The Negro Black Knight. A couple of other folks that didn't even say anything worth repeating their names. Some person from Africa. Uh, I don't understand why African people think they know the landscape of America better than those who are born here or descendants. I don't know why you think that because you've been here for 30 or 40 years, that you have any clue as to how America operates. If you ain't been in the belly of the beast for generations, you need to exclude yourself from the conversation. But you have no clue. You don't bear the scars on the inside. First of all, you'll never get them. You can stay here for 100 years and you won't have a clue or the connection that those who are descendants. So you need to have that conversation with yourself once and for all. If you got here at any time after 1865, you need to be excluding yourself from this conversation because you'll never be able to connect with the harm and the sacrifice that went into building this country. I don't I don't care how hard you work to convince yourself otherwise. It's all a delusion. It's a complete delusional fantasy that you have convinced yourself of. And it needs to come to an end. It needs to come to an end pronto because there's no way humanly possible for any person that arrived on America's soil after 1865 can understand the history and have the scars on the inside that can help them to understand what they're up against in America. Now, you may understand what you're up against from the country you came from, and you should, but you'll never be able to make the connection and fully comprehend the sacrifice that went into building this country. That only comes from those whose blood, sweat, and bones and tears are in the ground that you walk on. And unless you have a descendant with bones and tears and sweat in the ground that you walk on, you ain't gonna never have the connection or the understanding to tell a descendant anything that they don't already know. You'll never be able to include yourself in that conversation. But that sorry human being was in Disruptor Room too. And like I started to say, it was very disturbing to listen to Disruptor Room. And I'm going to say real quickly here, somebody needs to talk to that man. I know the first time that I encountered him, I had much respect for him. As time went on, I had to do more evaluation. And as time has passed, it's come to my conclusion after my critical evaluation that Mr. Disruptor needs to put down the spike Kool-Aid because he's getting too full of himself. And seeing as how nobody else seemed to have the courage or the backbone to tell him that, I think I just take the liberty to do it. I just take the liberty to do it. Since no one seems to want to do it, it's not a secret club, although it's quite a few of you in it. It is a secret club. I don't know. But somebody needs to tell that young man, that elder, to please sit that glass down on the table and stop drinking his own spiked Kool-Aid, because he's getting too full of himself. And it's unbecoming. And it's really very unbecoming. But if we don't care about that, then keep right on driving forward. I don't give a darn. What I do give a darn about is folks like yourself, disruptor, who think you have made yourself God, that you think that you can tell everyone else that Freeman's Bureau is going to disperse your repair, cash payments, or whatever. Who told you that? Who designated you as God to designate the Freeman's Bureau to be the person who dispersed any type of reparations? It's quite clear that you have been drinking too much of the Freeman's Kool-Aid also. You've been over there rubbing elbows with them now, and now you're sounding like them to a certain extent. Coming up, saying this Freeman, Negro Freeman term. Negro Freeman is a non-existent term. It's something that was just made up. It is not recognized at the local, state, or federal level. And like I have stated on my other audio, Freeman was in existence as long as slavery was in existence. And everyone hear that. Freeman served a purpose as long as slavery was in existence. Because at that time, slave masters gave slave persons a piece of paper. And that piece of paper gave them their freedom. And that piece of paper was given the term freeman legal status. But once slavery ended, no other human being received that piece of paper ever again. But that don't seem to stop you sorry human beings who keep running around here preaching about freemen. Freemen served a purpose as long as slavery was in existence. Because every one of those persons who were in slavery and got that piece of paper from a slave master or brought it on their own, they had an original bloodline. They had an original bloodline. And it wasn't freedom. So each and every one of you who got this attachment to this word freeman because of the money that got stolen from the bank, the land that got taken back, you need to stop running around here lying and telling half-truths and false narratives for your self-serving agenda. And that is why each and every one of you are never going to see one red penny, one red nickel, one red dime, one red quarter, because of the ungratefulness and dishonor that you have shown by choosing these other terms and coming up and inventing new terms to try to attach them to the word Negro. It's not going to fly. No word attached to Negro will ever make a difference. You can put as many words that you want in front of Negro or after Negro. Not any of those words will ever carry the weight in precedence and sacrifice that Negro carries. But you see, you folks know something. You know you cannot keep preaching a little lying narratives unless you attach your word to Negro. Because none of these other terms cannot stand by themselves. That's why y'all keep trying to convince persons that all these terms mean Negro. No, they don't. No, they don't. And you know you're lying every time you say it out your mouth. But you keep on lying and keep on repeating it. Because you're hoping if you repeat it long enough, folks will start believing it. And yes, Lord, some folks have started believing it and swallowing it, but I'm not one of them. I'm certainly not one of them because they don't all mean the same thing. It was Negro slavery. Each one of those persons who went through slavery did not hear the word black that often. They maybe heard the word black from time to time, but rarely. But they certainly did not hear the word freedom. They certainly did not hear the word African American. They certainly did not hear the word B1 or FDA or ADOS. The word that Negroes, slaves heard day in and day out was the word Negro. Well, wow, man, it reminds me that lady named Gerald Sanders, she couldn't even hardly bring herself to say Negro. See, that is when you know that America has done a good job. Their evilness have done a good job. When I can sit and listen to other melanated persons who claim to be descendants struggling to say the word Negro out their mouth, then I know that I have lived long enough to witness with my own two eyes and ears that when evil, pale skinned, pink persons, Caucasian persons, and all other ethnicities that are not brown or dark brown skin, when they decided to convince the world that white and black was a real thing, they never could have imagined. They could have taken it so effectively because white and black are made up words. White and black are made up words. And those of us who are intelligent or common sense or just logical sense, I don't care which one you want to choose. But when you look in the mirror, it's not a human being on this earth that is white. There's not a human being on this earth that is black when they look in that mirror. But they have got millions and millions of persons looking in the mirror day in and day in, day after day after day. They wake up and look in that mirror and they don't see a black person. But they have convinced those same persons to say out their mouth over and over that they are a black person. They even got them to put it in print, to write it in print. But when I look in the mirror, I don't see a black person. My skin tone is copper tone, light brown, brown, tan. Does any of those colors match black? Just so I'm not confused here. Because as far as I can tell, I did not name any color that comes close to black. Copper tone, brown, tan, light brown. Those four colors do not come close to black. So why in God's name would I keep saying out my mouth that I'm a black person then? Why would I do that? Especially since it's been researched and determined that America has been harming Negroes because they placed them under that term black and African American. Why would I want to continue to identify with it when I have been given the information that tells me that America has been using it as a weapon for 53 years to harm me? So why would I keep saying it out my mouth or writing it in print after I learned that? Why would I want to continue to inflict that harm to myself unless I just don't love myself? And I know pretty darn well that I love me like no tomorrow. So I'm not going to continue to inflict self-harm to myself. Now, I have to accept responsibility and accountability to all the years that I had to identify with those terms. And I had to identify with them because I did not know better. I was what I would call myself misinformed or ignorant. I don't care which one I choose. All I know is that I had it wrong. I was fed the wrong information. And once I got the right information, I made self-correction. Up until that time period, I was inflicting self-harm to myself. Because when I do the math, 53 years America has been harming me, and I'm only 61. So that's more than half of my life. 53 years out of 60 years, 61 years, America has been harming me because they wanted to give me the identity of black or African American. Black or African American. 53 years, I can keep saying that over and over, and I just won't be able to come to grips with the reality that the enemy, that those who meant me harm, plotted and planned for 53 years to inflict harm against me. 53 years they did that. But after I learned of it, it's my responsibility to make self-correction. I cannot continue to blame my enemy. If I choose to continue to say those words out of my own mouth and no one have a gun to my head, I cannot continue to blame my enemy. I can continue to blame them for everything that they have control over, but that one thing I have control over, I can choose to say the word or not say the word. I can choose to say the word BLACK or African American or any of these other terms, or I can choose not to. And I choose not to say it because I clearly understand that America wants to wash that blood off of their hands. And I would not help them. I would not be a party to helping them wash that blood off of their hands. And although you persons don't want to admit that, that's okay. That's all well and good. It's self-serving, but it's not going to change the outcome. You're still going to play a part in helping America erase 246 years of sacrifice and achievements. All of that is being washed down and drained daily, day by day. And you are playing your part. Every time you make a conscious choice to say any of those other terms other than Negro, or to write any of those terms other than Negro, you are helping America and the rest of the world erase Negro. You may not want to admit that to yourself, but that is what is taking place in real time. And that again is why you will not see one red penny, why you will never see one red nickel, one red dime, one red quarter. Because you don't get rewarded by being dishonoring 246 years of sacrifice and disrespecting 246 years of sacrifice. So for each one of you who struggle to say the word Negro out your mouth, thank yourself for not ever getting any justice, for not ever getting any human rights, let alone Special Field Order 13, reparations, cash payments, and self-respect. When a bloodline of people will not honor and respect their history, how can you in God's name expect to have a future? If you're not willing to fight and die for your history, and Negro is the history if you are claiming to be a descendant. If you're not willing to fight and die for that and identify that same way, how in God's name do you expect to have a future? You are telling every person in the world, that you are willing to abandon your history and identify differently because you feel it's offensive, you feel it's outdated, you prefer to self-identify. And you prefer to tell yourself that they all mean the same thing. But the rest of the world understand, those who care to understand, who care to have done their research, fully know that when they land in America's airport or on this landmass that Negroes carved out 246 years, that their bones and sweat and tears is in the ground that they walk on. They don't see these other terms as contributing to that sacrifice. Why should they? You making a personal choice to go by a different term. Why should those who mean you harm, who can't stand your guts, who mean you evil, why would they want to acknowledge and do the research to be able to connect the dots? Because they would certainly have had to have done the research to be in front of a person and having a conversation with someone who is identifying as Black or African American. You would have to assume that that person you're talking to have done their research and have the ability to connect the dots if you are talking about the same bloodline. Because without making all those assumptions, they just assume they're talking to a melanated skin person. They're not going to go through all the fret of trying to connect the dots and the person in front of them having a conversation could possibly be from the bloodline Negro, seeing as how the person in front of them is not identifying as a Negro. Why would they make the connection? Why would they want to make the effort to try to make the connection? There would be no reason for them to have to do it. Because you have done a good job of replacing the term Negro with your personal preference. So why should they care about wanting to connect the dots for you? Because you have made a personal choice to erase the term, to help America erase it, to help the world erase the term. So why should they go to any trouble to connect that you are the same person that comes from that same bloodline? They're not going to do it. So I just wanted to come on here real quick since my first space did not record. I did not press the record button. Oh, I just got to have this saved for my record keeping. I just would not have been able to rest easily knowing that I did not get a recording of where I stood. I wanted it to be very clear that you folks made it very clear that you just were not going to support any boycott effort that I initiated. And you have your own personal reason for why you didn't do it, and that's your own God-given right. Absolutely. And that's why I went on a blocking party. Because I felt clearly that you had made it clear to me that you didn't want to have no association with me. So I decided upon myself to go on a blocking party and block all of you. To block each of you, I had to stop because other things came up, or I would have kept on going down the list. But I'll get back to it later on. I'm sure I will in due time. In due time, I'm going to get back to going over that list of names that are following me. So if you are following me, you need to unfollow me, or you may end up getting blocked. I don't like to try to hide anything from folks, but if you know who you are and you know you made no effort to try to support the boycott that I had launched, because I have very good track record of supporting what other folks do. Beyond Jenkins, I never had many conversations with the man, but was in his room one day and he said, well, can persons post a post of his And I said I would make sure I take time to do it. And I did it for 30 days. I've done that for many other persons for different things that they have either sent me in the back channel or have seen come up on my timeline. They didn't even have to ask me. I saw it on my timeline and I said, I want to take time to post this information for 30 or 60 or 90 days, and I did it. How many of you folks can say out your mouth that you ever posted anything that I posted on my profile for a week or 2 days straight or whatever length of time? Did you ever do that? Yeah, I realize it did take time from time to time to hit the like button and the repost button, but that was rare. And you know who you are. You know who you are. I don't have to sit up here and name no names because each of you know who you are. So I didn't take any. I did not feel bad about blocking each and every one of you because you made it very clear that you did not want to have no association with me. So why should we be following each other? I don't play that game. I don't play that pretense game. I didn't play it in elementary. I didn't play it in junior high school. I did not play it in senior high school, and I certainly did not play it when I became an adult. So I just thought it would be best to cut ties, just do the facial separation all the way, not halfway. Because you definitely made it quite clear to me that you did not want to have any association with me. You did not come into the Twitter 24-hour Twitter spaces that I opened. You did not repost it. You did not make any effort whatsoever, no matter what I was working on. I have set up 50 groups. None of you have joined any of them. 50 for each of the 50 states. I've set up a affiliate program that helps folks try to earn commission by sharing, promoting referral links. I have set up coupon groups. I have set up different other groups that I can't name them all right now. I have more than probably 60 or 70 groups that I have set up on minds.com. The national boycott is still over there. I'm not going to get rid of it. I had planned to get rid of the boycott that's on my profile community, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I know not any of you are going to take the time to join, but I'm going to leave it up. I had planned to take it down in December. At the end of December, I posted a message for those who took the time to join, which was only 10. But I thank each and every one of you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart that you took the time to click that link and join that community boycott. You didn't have to decide to do that, but I appreciate it. I really do. But I'm going to leave it up. I wanted it to serve as a reminder for all those persons who are running around here encouraging the melanated Negro community to go take money out of their pocket and go to Washington, D.C. and be part of a protest rather than gather those numbers way social media boycott. It makes more sense for those persons to fit their mouth and ask persons to take hard-earned money out of their pocket. And maybe those of you who have money to do that, don't look at it as it's going to be any trouble for you. And that's all well and good. But it's not going to help that person that I grew up with in the ghetto, in the projects. It's not going to help that person who grew up in the ghetto or the hood. I certainly know it's not going to help anyone that I remember growing up with in the projects. It's not going to help put any food on the table. It's not going to help people keep their lights on. It's not going to help people keep the roof over their head. But it's going to make each of you feel good. So I guess it won't be a total waste of trip. But you need to be honest. Have some decency and start pushing that narrative to those persons who have suffered far too long. Protests and marching is not going to get any demands delivered. And each of you who are either college students or common sense know that that is the outcome that's going to happen. And why you will not choose to do the decent thing and not ask persons to do that. But that makes you feel good to organize for a protest and a march, but it don't make sense for you to organize for a boycott. And it would only take Twitter platform to kick it off. Now I say Twitter because Twitter is the most conscious of all of these social media platforms, and it should be the testing proving grounds that would most more than likely spread to these other platforms. Twitter has the best environment of those who are tuned in and focused constantly on making progress. Once Twitter do it, those on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok and YouTube will probably decide to do it also. But someone has to take the lead. Because, we're in a society where folks like to do the wait and see. They like to wait and see before they decide to join in. I'm not a wait and see person myself. I like to take action, and I just make that decision to do it. I don't do the wait and see. I like to take action when it is, if I'm really able to do so. I try to proceed to do that. But I want each of you to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk with yourself. Because when you're looking at mirror, you're going to have to be able to answer to yourself why you was not willing to make that commitment, make that sacrifice, to simply not click on social media app for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, or 30 days, or 60 days, or 90 days, until the enemy understood that you were serious. Because it probably wouldn't take more than 30 or 60 days to get it done. I really don't think corporations will want to suffer more than 3 weeks. Maybe, let's just say, stretching it, corporations are not going to want to sit up there and see their bottom line being affected by a social media boycott. But you won't do it. You don't have to join the one that I have set up. Somebody who you like, maybe many of you will decide to do one together. I just hope somebody get it done. Since you made it clear that you did not want to support the one that I was trying to do, maybe one of you folks who y'all like to rub elbows with each other, y'all in the same clique with each other, y'all hang out with each other, y'all bosom pals with each other. Maybe a couple of you will get one organized until the numbers get high enough to make a difference. The same way the NBA and the WNBA boycotted for 48 hours. Maybe those of you who just made it very clear that you were not going to support, who would you boycott? Why don't you start one up on your own with those persons who you know like each other? Maybe it'll have a better chance of getting the results that's needed. Because if this does not get done before the election, it's over. It is completely over, and you folks can go home and pack it in and stop peddling the lies and the false narratives, because it will be over. Because America will not need the Negro and melanated vote after this election. It's 435 persons up for election, 33 in the Senate. It's never going to be this opportunity again. It's not coming back around because by the time the next 4-year election goes around, all these invasion immigrant persons are going to be a voting bloc. And those persons who that evil America has harmed for 53 years, you're going to continue to be invisible. You're going to probably continue to convince yourself that you can make a difference by voting. But like I have said on many other audios, unless you have Bank of America or JP Morgan type of money, you don't need to be saying out your mouth to anyone to vote ever again. You need to stop lying. It took me a long time to get there. But for those of you who have not listened to the audiobook, The Destruction of the Black Snow, the system, THE system, who rigged it and how do you fix it? And if you did not get a chance to listen to Ron Dalton, Hebrews and Negro, Wake Up Black Americans, he definitely broke it down during that book. So you got two sources that you can tap into to maybe shake you to your core and convince you once and for all that you do not have any place in that arena. Because you know better than anyone else whether or not you have Bank of America type of money in your bank account. Do you know anyone else? Do you know millions of persons who have the kind of money that Bank of America has? Do you know millions of persons who have the kind of money that JP Morgan has, or Chase Bank, or Wells Fargo? Do you know 50 people, 100 persons that have that kind of money in their bank account? If you do not answer that question yes, then you need to stop telling anyone to vote ever again. Unless you have that kind of money, if you don't have that kind of money and you don't have your numbers organized, you're going to have one or the other one in place. You're either going to have that kind of money. If you don't have that kind of money, you need to have the backup plan. You need to know that you have 500 persons or 10,000 persons or 5,000 persons who are on the same page with each other. That they are ready to activate at a push of a button. If you cannot name 10 persons or 100 persons that are on the same page, and they know they are connected to one another and they are staying up to date and ready to activate at any moment's notice, then you are lying to people and you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your kids and you're lying to your grandkids. And you need to stop doing it because voting is not going to get it done. It takes some of us, like myself, it took me a long time to come to grips with that reality. I remember the day I was in my 12th grade classroom. They came to my classroom and told me I was ready for the vote. I have been lying to myself up until 2008. From 1980 to 2008, I lied to myself. And I kept telling myself that my vote counted, it could make a difference. Well, I got that wake up call. I finally had to sit down and admit that I had been played for food, that I had been lied to. I had been lying to myself. I finally had to have that uncomfortable conversation with myself and accept some hard truths that my vote did not count. The moment I put that voting card in that machine, I ceased to exist. I ceased to exist. Whether I lived or died in the next 5 minutes did not matter whatsoever. It only mattered as long as it took me to fill out my voting card. But once I filled out that voting card, I ceased to exist again until Everything repeats itself every 2 years, every 4 years, just like a repeat cycle. But I stopped lying to myself. For those of you who care about your kids, your grandkids' future, you will stop lying to yourself and others and each other. If you really care about those persons in your life, if you really do care about those persons in your life, you will stop lying. Because each of us know we do not have Bank of America type money. We don't know 10 persons or 100 persons that have that kind of money in their bank account. We know this. We know the answer to that. We don't need anyone's help to answer that question. We know crystal clear that we do not have the kind of money that Bank of America and J.P. Morgan have tucked away. Again, we should also be able to understand that we have no place in the corrupt political system that has been in place in America for over 400 years. We should be able to be honest with ourselves about it. Marcel Dixon, I heard you in a disruptive space painting that thing narrative that you always paint. Don't disconnect. What are you talking about, man? We ain't never been included. There's a delusional in your head that a lot of us have had in our head that we have been included in this corrupt system that they call political process. You seem to still be convinced of it. Well, prayers for you. Because if you don't make that self-correction, you'll go to your grave, believe me, because it's not a real thing. So, Marcel Dixon, folks cannot disconnect from something that they have never been included in. For all you folks who run around here claiming that, oh, it's just the worst thing ever to not participate in voting, y'all just don't realize you haven't had that wake-up reality. You still are able to convince yourself that it really can make a difference. And it's very sad. It's very, very sad that that is the case. I am just grateful that my lying to myself lasted 28 years. 28 years of my 61 years. I'm not proud of that. But I can at least admit it to myself and learn from it and try to do better. But I don't have to keep on repeating it. I don't have to keep on inflicting that harm to myself. And we melanated brown persons are never going to be included in our system. They are going to include a select few, like Maxine Waters. I can't even name the brown faces up here. I don't know too many of them. I did have a few of their names in my head for a little while when I used to go visit the Congressional BLACK caucus website, but I haven't been there in over a year probably. So a lot of their names have left my head. But we know the faces. They throw them out there every chance they get. They push them out to the microphone. These were the brown faces. And they're supposed to be speaking for the Negro community and melanated persons. They're supposed to be representing them. It's all a pretense. A pretense. Just like that African person that was in disruptive space saying that we should split, put half of our support behind the RNC and half of it behind the DNC and expect a different outcome. That is sad. People, have you ever known a person in power saying, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to share my power equally with you? Have you ever met anyone in your life who raised their hand to give up their advantage, no matter what it is. Just just apply it to anything, not just politics. Do you know of anything in your life experience that you can point out where you have met a person that had something in their favor to their advantage, that they volunteered to give it up or to make it equal? Have you encountered that interaction with anyone for any type of situation? It don't just have to be about politics, but just anything that you could think of that you have experienced in whatever length of time that you've been on the side of living. Can you give any example where that has occurred? America is not going to give up their power. They have not invested over 400 years in a corrupt system to allow other folks to penetrate. Now they're going to let us slip through the cracks. That's going to always happen, but it's not going to be enough to make a difference. Those few that get through the crack, they don't cause any disruption in the corruption. You get that? Those few that make it through the cracks, they don't cause enough disruption to mess up the corrupt system. So everything just keep right on trucking along, right on beat. So you persons who are just being determined to keep on identifying as Black American and African American, you need to shimmy on over to the OMB website. As I have stated on my other audios, I have put that link in the description. I will include it with this audio also, so that you won't have to spend a little time searching for the exact page, because I did have to look quite a while to get to the right page. I don't want you to have to spend all that time. I want you to take 5 or 10 minutes out your busy life and go read the description on the OMB. They have a description that is a description for Black Americans and African Americans, and the way they have it spelled out, you are a racial group on the African continent. The OMB in America has officially made you a better. But see, you get that kind of, that's what you get when you're ungrateful, when you don't honor 246 years of sacrifice that was carved out. Okay, I'm going to end it right there. Thank you for listening, and I'll pick it up on the second part. Thank you.